Let's get the shit. Let's get the shit. Top of the morning. Top of the morning. Top of the morning. Top of the morning.
There we are. What's up, everybody?
Top of the morning. Top of the morning. Hold on.
How's it going, everybody?
I'm sick.
Welcome at top of the evening.
That's right.
Yes, we've got a case of the sniffles here. We're hanging in there, though. Welcome back
Stay safe, everybody.
Fast Track Feedback Fridays. Today is the day that we review your music. We give our thoughts, feedback, criticisms, sometimes jokes, and a little bit of shame. Usually not the shame, though. We try to be nice.
Some cringe, put in some cringe here and there.
Yes, occasionally.
That's right.
We've got a pretty full lineup today. We've got 5 songs, I believe.
Cheers.
So, I mean, if you guys want to submit, if you make music or your friends that do, you can still send stuff to the forum, but we may not be able to get to it today. Either way, for updates to stay in tune with what we're doing, and we post clips, useful clips and stuff like that to our Instagram. Follow us up there. And you got anything else before we dive right into it, Christopher?
Bro, I'm hungry and thirsty, but that's a me problem. What's everybody?
We have needs today.
Yeah, I gotta eat.
Starting at the bottom of Maslow's hierarchy.
Dude, all I've been able to eat was soup. It's sad.
Well, I guess soup it's probably what you need right now.
Yeah, I need some meat, dog. But anyways, let's get into the music, shall we?
Sprinkle some protein powder in that soup.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, that shit gives me acne. So bad.
Yikes. Yeah. All right.
All right. You want to get to the first song? Uh-oh. You're lagging for me, Josh.
We found him on Reddit, but you've seen him around, Chris, right?
Yeah, you lagged out for me a little bit. I don't know if that was my end, but yeah, so Gary with 2 R's. Bro, if you're watching, let us know. So he's mostly from the Making Hip Hop Reddit. And I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, Gary, I think he's been making a song every day for the whole year. And so he's already pumped out like over 150, something like that. It's like ridiculous. So man's on a grind. I'm sure that his sound is developed like mad. I think these are all finished releases too. But yeah, one of his songs that we'll be listening to today is called I Get It. It's finished released. The project description says just some grimy pimp shit. So, that's how it is. Gary with 2 R's, follow him on socials, stuff like that. But yeah, are you ready? Do you have it pulled up?
Holy shit, he gave us all the links. All right, I'm gonna do YouTube here because maybe there's something visual. Maybe there's probably not, but I don't know. Let's find out.
Yeah, I don't think there is. The link I got was just YouTube.
It's got
all ready.
But all right, we're here. Yep, I'm ready.
All right, Gary with 2 R's. 3, 2, 1.
Check, ho. I break a neck for respect, ho. You ain't got yolks, better egg roll. Yo, I got fam asking me if I sold my soul. I told him no, but that bitch on hold, and I ain't selling to the devil. He ain't breaded enough. If you think that shit wild, I'm just revving it up. Your pastor probably take dick, and you're revving a slut. Went to church, had to preach your daughter begging the fuck. Just trying to make an X-Man jealous as fuck. Worst pussy I ever had from a heavenly hutch. I still got one hell of a nut, but that was back in my square days, still being fair days. I hit a hole right down the fairway and put a hole in one. You wanna roll with me, little bitch, I'm holding some. If you ain't got the bag, you best be close to one. I don't need all the girls, just the golden ones. Betty White, and if you had hustle like her, you be a chosen one. I get it. I'm making money talk, so you know I get it. I get it. Fuck your boyfriend, I'm the man right here, bitch. I get it. If they don't get it now, then they gon' get it later. Walk up in this bitch like hi to the haters. Then I show out, nigga die, see you later. Niggas don't get it and they blame it on their parents cause they feeling too embarrassed to take a little blame. But let me break down that part of the game where it clearly explains that you're getting out your lane. You off-road and that ain't your terrain. You a man of the flatlands. I'm rapping, but my back plane is Batman. And I might just cap you for fun with my grappling gun. I was raised in a place where racing didn't phase us. It was paradise, it was very nice. 1993, via Long Beach. Still keeping my Cali family in arm's reach. I'm a rich sand, born to be a rich man. And a steed too, watch how I steer through. Too many horses, whore, you in my rear view. If it ain't means, then that means anything we can do. I get it. I made money talk, so you know I get it. I get it. Fuck your boyfriend, I'm the man right here, bitch. I get it.
Yeah.
Excuse me. Oh man, that was
Woo!
Gary with two R's. As you can tell
Wow.
by my coughing, that was pretty sick. But
Added some special effects there.
yeah, dude, I get it, I get it. Um, I'm trying to
Shit.
think of the remnants of artists that I'm thinking about. In the beginning, I
Hmm.
was like, he kind of has like an old Drake kind of flow.
Yeah.
Um, but then something else, I can't think of who. But yeah, he definitely has like a kind of old school flow to it. Some weird bars here and there,
Yeah.
off the wall,
Yeah,
talking
definitely.
about what is it like having sexual relations with a preacher's daughter or something. Pretty
Yeah,
crazy
there's some.
stuff. Uh,
Yeah.
but yeah, I think it was like from a first impression standpoint, it was pretty solid everywhere around. I could hear
Yeah.
most of what he was saying. I don't know what the clear message of the song was, but beat was cool. He sounded confident as a vocalist. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious the level of overall professionalism. Like, I would believe this guy makes songs every day.
Yeah.
And mostly for me, that comes from the production. Because, again, that's kind of the rarest thing I think that you
Mhm.
see is like something that's really polished and like the levels are right and things are clear and there's a strong foundation in the bass and the drums and the vocals come through, right in the middle. That
Mhm.
stuff was really, really quite impressive. Um,
Mhm.
I mean, in terms of the categories here, vibes, I would say like for what it is, like what you described is probably pretty accurate. I think it achieves what it's probably setting out to do. Although I did feel a little bit like maybe I didn't get quite as much of a story or meaning from it as I would like to. Like it sounded really good, but it didn't really sound like it was going a whole lot of places. Like the
Would you say that
overall,
you don't get it?
yeah,
Yeah, I share. I share the same thing. Keep
yeah. I
going.
mean, it's cool. I don't really know. I don't know. It sort of felt like the vibe was similar throughout the whole thing, and I didn't really get it. And that
Yeah.
might just be personal. Like if it was more my area, maybe I would like it more. And I'm not saying I don't like it. It's just like feels really well constructed, but maybe a little bit hollow. Like I would like to
Mhm.
hear a little bit more personality in it that kind of shines through. Although those weird lines sort of accomplish some of that, but again, it's like what exactly is going on here?
Yeah.
Maybe listening to it again would just be the answer, right? Then maybe you do get it. But
Mhm.
from a first impression standpoint, that's where I'm at. So vibes, I would give it a very close to good to go because it's like, it's good, but
Mhm.
just for me personally, it's not perfect. I would say.
Oh yeah, I
Um,
think this is what we call a freestyle. Not really in the sense of like going off the top of your head and improvising, but just like rapping about whatever the fuck you want to rap about. He's just kind of
yeah,
talking his shit. Um, I don't know, Gary, if I'm right about this, but I would say that you probably like freestyled and then like tried to write raps and whatever, make it as fast as possible because you're doing it in a day. And then you talked about selling yourself to the devil or whatever, blah blah blah. How you're not doing that, and then came in the album art. Like that's just the way that I could see your creative process. You're like, oh, this is what I wrote about in this song that I try to make in a day, and then I'm just gonna make an album art that goes with it. So I think it shows, the like Josh said, the professionalism, the sound, your confidence. Like it shows that you really are putting in a lot of work and time into it. But I think, as Josh said, the consequence of doing that every day and trying to push yourself is that sometimes some of the projects are just going to be hollow. And
yeah,
that's cool for some of the stuff that, like for freestyles, everybody has a freestyle that they just want to talk shit about. Um, I share a lot of the same sentiments. So I think vibe overall, I think it's a green. Um, Content, I don't know, it's in between yellow and green for me, but because really, like freestyles exist for a reason. Sometimes you just want to blast this on, and this could be like a party song,
yeah,
just bumping in the background. It has an up tempo beat, confident delivery. It sounds professional. So, um, yeah. Uh,
yeah.
what do you think, Josh?
I mean, to your points there too. I think it's if it is the case that this is one of his like once one everyday songs,
Hmm.
it's a good showcase that like his skills are extremely professional, right? Like
Hmm.
he's able to very quickly put together a really really professional sounding track if that's the case. But it is also like I could see that being really useful as like a personal boot camp to like get
Yeah,
really good at some skill set, and it seems like he's already kind of done that. But there are some things that I don't think are quite as easy to rush. Maybe it's just that the lyricism and the songwriting are the part that need more work than mixing and production at this point. So
yeah,
maybe it would be useful to focus on those a little bit more. But it
yeah,
could also just be that those things take sometimes a little bit longer to really like figure out what you want to say. And I would imagine that writing something every day, you might run out of like, full pictures to paint. Like it might be a little bit difficult to have something interesting to write every single day, even if you can produce music that's interesting every day. So
yeah,
it might just be a case for like, hey, you've got the skills. Like if you make something, like make a piece of art, right? Like slow down for a minute and think about, what kind of project do I want to make? Like maybe I just want to make 3 really good singles in the next 3 months or something, and let yourself take a little bit more time to really nail the details. Or maybe you want to make an album and like put a bunch of detail. But I think at this point, I don't know if rushing yourself is necessarily going to provide more benefit. It can, for at the beginning, but I think at some point you want to zone in and make something special if you can.
for sure.
Um,
Yeah, I think exactly what you said. It's a personal boot camp for him. Probably he's probably just trying
yeah,
to get really good at what he does, and I think it's showing.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely, it's super
so
cool.
mhm,
Then I think content we sort of talked about a little bit. I would just
yeah,
say like I don't know, it's a super good production. Maybe feels a little bit hollow. So
yeah,
I'd give it
and like
a
arrangement of the beat too. It's like flat, right? Like there's
yeah.
no really big movements.
I'd probably give it a closer to a yellow. Develop in that
Cool.
category.
Yellow
Um,
Davila,
and then production was the one that was
green, solid. Uh-oh, you're lagging
sound
for me,
and
bro.
polish. It's something you don't see in the more amateur stuff. Um,
Yep.
I don't really have many tips for that. Although the wub sound at the end, I thought was a little bit like either a little bit dry or kind of detracted a little bit for me. Maybe like it's sort of fun, but
Yeah.
there was something about it that sounded a little bit thin, maybe, or like I wish there was something else to fill in that space that was a little bit more interesting. I think that
Yeah.
might be what it is.
I thought it was fun.
So
Maybe
I
a
would
little
give
bit
it a
goofy
green.
sounding, but yeah.
Yeah, I would give it a green in production. But what would you say?
Yeah, I think it's a great in production too. It's super solid.
Yeah.
Yeah, Gary, let us know if you produce this stuff too. Like I said, every time I go into that feedback thread, you're always there, posting up
Yeah.
music. So it's super dope. Keep doing what you're doing. That's super sick. For me, I think
Yeah.
it's between mostly towards a green because I think there's a lane for this, but maybe it's not my cup of tea. But yeah, I think it's green, good to go. What do you think for the overall judge?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I think it's just about there, like good to go, like radio ready. But for my personal taste, maybe for both of ours, there's it's not quite a top tier track. There's a little bit of work to do on like making it feel like a more special or cohesive or unique song or something like that.
Yeah, man. Just like, I mean, I'm a big fan of Kanye, but not every single Kanye song is going to be a top tier. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
yeah, exactly.
So,
Dope. All
good
right,
shit.
thanks, Gary. Keep sending us shit because goddamn, that was quite impressive.
Yeah, dude. I do want to see like what happens when you sit down and take like a week
Yeah,
or who knows, a month to make a song. It'd be crazy.
insane. All right, let's go to
Cool.
the next one here. We've got
Yeah.
Miro Sean. The artist name is Miro,
Mm.
and the song title is Old Me.
Yeah, let me know if you get a problem with playing this because I just did. Hello, Josh?
The drive here.
Josh, you're lagging for me a little bit, but I'm guessing that you can't play it as well.
Oh, yes, that's the case.
Sad. Okay. I guess we'll go to the next one.
All right, I guess we probably have to go to the next one here. Unfortunately, because it looks like it's not working. Owner prevented downloads and playback of the audio file, and there's nothing we can do. Unfortunately. All right, it's all
Miro, if
good.
you are in the chat or whenever we see you again, Miro-san, we can't play your song, dog. Let us give us some access to it. That'd be great.
Yes, that and if anybody wants to fill in that slot who's watching, you can submit your music or phone a friend and get
Yeah.
them to submit their music. The link
Yeah,
to
submit
the
your
form
friends
is right up
trash
there.
music. No, I'm just
Yes,
kidding.
yeah, just do it without permission. Actually, well, I'm not gonna
Yeah, dude.
tell you what to do.
Embarrass them. No, I'm just kidding. Who knows,
Right?
dude? They might be on that purple top tier playlist.
Yeah, it's true. All right, this
Um,
next one also looks like a Google Drive link,
yeah,
and
looks
let's
like
see
it
if it
works still.
works. We've got K Suave. He knows what's up. He knows how this works.
Yeah, K Suave, friend of the stream. Thank you very much, bro. The single is called "On My Pillow." It's a finished release, but it's not released yet. So it looks like he's finished. Might not want to take any super constructive criticism, but hey, that's what we do. So
Finished
I'm
but not
excited.
released means you can change it if we tell you to.
He might have pushed it to stores already. I don't know. Let
Who
us know when
knows?
it's released, though, dog.
Yeah, for sure. All right, we ready to go?
Yeah, K Suave on my pillow. Three, two,
Let's hit it.
one.
Hey, Cabo.
The vocals, dude.
T-Pain.
She got in with a cold, and she's cold hearted. I call her telephone to get the convo started. I got Prada bag and Fendi clothes, so she don't want no problem. She keeps the white line off my nose. She don't like drug problems. I want you to lay your head on my pillow. And girl, you made my day. Oh, you made my day. Oh, I get like fire. And baby gon' step out the car. Pink nails with a black tank top. I love it when you make me act hard. Love it when you make me tote around the rod. I try to keep the distance from the itty bitty bitches, and I swear to God I never ever love. Girl, you keep my attention, you ain't gotta make me listen. Swear to God I gotta listen to the love sound. Make a talk to the ones that ain't never really found a way. One day they will find lovers. Make a talk to the love that we have right now, and we're creating some way. Got it with a goal, she's cold-hearted. I call her telephone to get the combo started. Swear to God, shot I got a powder bag and Fendi clothes. She don't want no problem. She keeps the white line off my nose. She don't like drug problems. I told her shawty, yeah, she cool at late night. I deal her shawty, finna the water like great white. I got a shawty driving bitch, I wanna pop in your mom and stay. I gotta keep it on me, I ain't never been a phone. Swear to God, a nigga sleeping with the pole. Try to keep the secret, try to hide it, keep the secret, acting like a nigga never ever know. She caught it with a cold, and she's cold-hearted. I want you to lay. I call her telephone to get the convo started. I pat her bag and Fendi clothes, so she don't want no problem. She keeps the white line off my nose. You want no problem. I want you to lay on your head on my pillow. And girl, you made my day. You made my day. Oh, can I feel you? I want you to.
Bass is nice.
Oh shit, I was muted. That hook is super, super fire, dude.
Yeah, nice little fade out there.
Oh man, my voice is
Man.
so shot.
You know,
Suave on my
it's
pillow.
interesting. Yeah,
What's that?
it's interesting because I was noticing at the end there, like when he stopped singing, it felt better to me, kind of. I mean,
Oh, you like that again?
again, a little bit of an excessive use of autotune,
Mhm.
to where it kind of was like annoying. Like, it was sort of like, again, we know that this guy's got a great voice, but he's like covering it up in like layers and layers of processing and autotune, and I don't know. I just think it sort of removes a lot of the like personality from it. You know, like it could be any number of people who are behind that filter. Uh, I want to hear his voice because I know that he has a good vocal tone that he can sing, and it's just like it's a little bit too much and kind of doing the stepping thing a little bit too rapidly, kind of distracting.
Mm-hmm.
And there was something else like the vocal. I don't know. I was trying to figure out how I felt about the production side because maybe we're spoiled from hearing that other one just now because that other one was like radio ready, like levels all across the spectrum, like mastered pretty much perfectly. And we've heard stuff from K Suave before, and it sounds very good. This one included, but I think there is some work to be done if this is really a finished release, both in terms of mastering, in terms of getting that frequency spectrum a little bit wider. It sort of feels like we're missing a little bit of content, like it's a little bit lower res.
Yeah.
Probably in the low area. Maybe we've got. I mean, the bass was nice and punchy, but
Yeah.
it did feel like things were a little bit band passed on both ends. I think not quite
Mm-hmm.
as open sounding as the other one.
Yeah.
That
Not as
being
wide.
said, yeah, I mean there were some nice stereo touches. Like there were a couple of instruments there that were nicely stereo spread, stuff like that. I'd be curious to hear what that stuff sounds like in mono though, because you have to be really careful when you're using any like stereo spatializer plugins because effectively what they're doing most of the time is applying phase differences to each channel, and phase differences are for a disaster when you're in mono, which
Mm-hmm.
is not quite as common today. I mean, most smartphones are playing in stereo technically, but speakers aren't that far apart, and it can still cause phase staying on phone speakers. Um, but yeah, that's just something to be aware of is making sure you're not doing a whole lot of stereo spreading on individual instruments.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is a solid foundation of a song. Just feels like there's like 10%, 5 or 10% to go on the mixing and mastering front to make it sound like radio ready. And I thought it was a little bit repetitive. Like, yes, it's catchy. I see you're dancing to it there.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely catchy, but I think it went on a little bit too long or something. And I think it was the same progression like through the whole song.
Yep.
And again, I just think that the vocal was a little bit like the vocal with the auto tune and the processing was a little bit much. And like I said, there was some sense of relief when the vocal actually cut out at the end because it finally felt like there was some space to breathe.
Yep.
Could also just be that the vocal line and the lyrics need to leave a little bit more space to breathe. There doesn't need to be a lyric at every second. But yeah, those are kind of my thoughts spread out across some of these categories here. What are your impressions?
Fuck, I had to cough at the exact same time that you stopped. Excuse me. My first impressions were like, this guy sounds like, and like I love the beginning, man. The beginning has like some interesting stuff happening in like your very high, almost falsetto type voice. I thought that was super unique and super cool. Like the thought that it kept coming back to my mind is like, hey, this is like Young Thug but palatable for normal people. Like it's very smooth versus Young Thug's like kind of polarizing delivery. But I think the like da 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 da. I'm gonna try to sing, but my voice is out. Like summer cold, da 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 da. Like that part was like super nice.
Yeah.
It did repeat too much. Like unfortunately, I don't know if you like got a tight beat. I'm suffering from this too. But if you get a tight beat, typically they don't have much beat changes unless you like specifically look for it. And this one didn't have much of a beat change throughout. I think you did try to keep it fresh with some of the flows, but I mean that specific part, for example, was kind of repeated. That might have been the hook, maybe like 3 or 4 times, and that's kind of a lot in music these days. There are some sections where I thought that the delivery of the vocals, or maybe not the delivery. I think the delivery was fine. It's mostly the writing. I think some of the vocals lines. You talked about like giving a toast to some sort of population of people. I forgot, but I just remember in that part, I thought the melody was super cool. I just thought there was like too many words and it sounded kind of awkward. Like to me, it was like, oh, if we're giving a toast to people, this is like a lyric that people want to sing along to. It's got to be something that flows naturally with the melody that you're putting down. But it just seemed kind of a little bit clumsy there. Um, yeah, so that's for content vibes. Um, I think I think I've said this before, but I think we and K Suave loves love to hear his voice. And there's some times where I think you're doing too much. Like you just gotta let your voice shine. I actually like the autotune, just because that's the type of music I listen to as well. I.e. Thug. But I think what's happening, especially later on, I think there's a lot of layers going on, and you don't need as much layers as you're putting down. I think it's taking up a lot of space compared to the beat, and I think that's kind of leading to what was hearing is that the song overall kind of sounds narrow because I think the vocals are just taking up too much space. Um, so that would be my kind of uh, what is it? 2 cents on production. It's really kind of general, but um, yeah, that's what I was hearing. In terms of the categories, I would give excuse me, green on vibes, maybe yellow on content, and then production probably, or maybe yellow green on content, and then yellow green on production. What do you think, Josh?
Sure. Yeah, I would. I mean, for me, I think all three are honestly sort of yellow green.
Mhm.
I just and again, maybe it's just that it's not totally my genre, but I don't know. I think there's room for improvement on like um, making the vibe is like related to the content in that it just feels like it's going on a little bit too long, and the auto tune and all that stuff sort of affects the vibe. And I feel like if those things were just executed at at a slightly higher level with some revision,
Yeah.
the vibe would be green. But I just feel like right now there's some stuff to be worked on that kind of affects the vibe for me.
Chess Bro in the chat, by the way, he says, I thought his inflections were cool. Yeah, I think so too. I think he's
Yeah,
a
I think it
talented,
was cool.
easily singing.
I just think it was a little bit much. Like throughout the whole 3 minute song, it was a lot of that wavering with the stepping, and it's just kind of like a little bit, grating in some
Yeah.
ways.
I mean, you
Um,
could get away with like half the song length and then, or maybe a minute off. Um, and then just, I think what we're trying to say is like his voice is good enough like just doing like a normal delivery. Yeah, I mean in the
yeah,
beginning I loved his beginning stuff. Like it was super unique, super crazy. It was kind of like Baby Key Mask where he's kind of doing this weird top vocal line stuff that's cool. And the layers are cool too. It's just if you put like 3 layers versus 7, I think 3 are gonna sound better. So
sure.
excuse me, I'm sorry, I'm going through some sickness, but good to see you, Chess Bro. Thank you for commenting.
Yeah, man. All right, so
And
yeah,
yeah,
and then
overall I
the
think it's
track
a yellow
total.
green.
Yeah, I was gonna say the same.
Let us know when you
Sweet.
release it, K Suave. That'd be dope.
Yeah, please do. And get in this chat. Where you at?
He's usually at work.
Oh yeah.
We'll see if he comes through, but stay working. Don't lose your job.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we've got uh, the artist name is wow. I don't know if I can pronounce this. Lath Lathaton.
Late the time. Okay.
I don't know how to pronounce that. Lathaton.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. And the song title is Project 4.
Yeah.
Project with a K. That's important.
Nice.
The description is this was the fourth track I ever made as electronic music. It's been a couple of years since, and given a mix more fitting after 2 years' experience, has finally been released. The non hat percussive sounds tie into the art as they give the track a slightly hoppy feel. Winky face. Okay,
Winky
interesting
face.
description. All right, let's get this pulled up.
Happy feel. Okay. And we found him through We Are the Music Makers. Dope.
Yes,
Um,
the
and Chess Bro, you'll be after him. I'm glad that you actually have the domain bro.dog. That was pretty nice to see.
yeah, that's impressive. When did you get that, dude? You must have had to hop on that like the beginning of the internet. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was pretty nice.
All right, we ready?
Yeah, just a second. Hey, Curry, any submission spots left? What's up, rumors? Yeah, we do. We do have ones left. If you get in there, please roll through. Rumors is also in Illinois, by the way.
Nice.
Yeah, we might have to meet up sometime, rumors.
Where are you at in Illinois? Is he in like Champaign?
I think he's like maybe an hour out or something. He's pretty close, or maybe a couple hours. It was some weird sounding town. It was like meat or something. Beef, Illinois.
Man.
What's that? Hello?
I just cut out there a little bit. Yeah, we good?
Yeah. Oh yeah. I was like
All
the
right.
town. I think it's called like meat or something. It's like weird beef. I don't know.
All right.
Maybe I'm
Let
getting
us
totally
know
wrong.
where you're at, rumors. All right,
Yeah,
ready to
let's
play
do
it?
it.
All
Yeah,
right,
Project Four,
three.
Lay Thayton,
Oh, let's do it
3.
from 4 then. 4, 3, 2, 1,
Get
go.
it? Interesting.
Sound design.
I'm liking it so far.
Yeah.
Diminished chord there.
Forget what scale that is. Some weird mode or something.
Fuck, dude, 6 minutes.
I know, I just saw that. Hey, thanks, rumors.
What'd you say? Vamp type beat. Yeah, true.
Whoa,
A little bit of switch it.
I was waiting for that.
Super repetitive though.
It's repetitive, but it's not entirely. It's interesting. It is obviously.
That's like a fist pump.
Jeez. That was
Um,
like actually not the worst 6.5 minutes that I could have experienced.
yep.
Yeah, you did mention. I mean, obviously it's repetitive because it's like a club electronic type thing, and the beat is pretty
Yeah.
repetitive. But I did appreciate that on most repetitions, something changed. Like there were very few where something about the harmony of any different instrument changed or a part came in and out. That at least sort of kept me like somewhat engaged with it.
Yeah.
I would say surprisingly honestly for something this simple. I think it was cool how like well, first of all, I love when the
Chess
artwork.
Bro, I love it.
What
Sorry.
did he say?
Chess Bro said I could see Morpheus featuring
Yeah.
on this. Yeah, for sure. Let me just read the chat real quick. Group 9938, Edward Richtofen. Hello. Or would I send for feedback? Looks like you already took care of that. Thank you, John.
Yep.
What's up? Welcome. Rumors gives me like a digital world and a video game OST vibe. Exactly. You hit it
Yeah.
nail on the head. That's
Definitely.
what I felt like. Specifically, if you guys ever played Nintendo 64, you used to play a game called Rush 2. I think it was also in arcades, and then maybe Wipeout 64 as well. There's like a lot of these kind of house songs that are like this that have kind of honestly cheesy sounding synths, but some of them are really, really special sounding. And I
Yeah.
liked a lot of it. But sorry, Josh, I cut you off. Go ahead. I have some things to say
Well,
about that too.
yeah, on that, I mean, at first I was gonna say I love when the album artwork kind of matches up with the Sonic profile. Like this
Yeah,
is a
that frog for
very
sure.
weird. I mean, but just like the texture of it and the texture of the background and everything, it's like, and it's so mysterious. It's like on this sort of like ethereal, like universe backdrop chalkboard type looking thing where it's kind of like melting. Really weird. And it sort of lines up with like what I was going to say about your sounds. A lot of those synths are really like kind of organic sounding. Like they give
Yeah,
me those sort of textural
analog.
material feels. Yeah, I actually wonder like if you I would believe that, or it's something else. But yeah, I mean,
Hopefully that went through. You kind of chopped up. I didn't hear it, but
there's. I was just saying maybe it's like a teenage engineering OP1, OPZ
oh,
type
true.
synthesizer thing. I don't know, but you got some interesting analog texturized sounds here, which I think is really cool.
Yeah.
Man, I don't even know where to start.
Oh
I guess,
yeah, I could see that. Especially for
yeah,
the kind of sounds.
yeah. Although I will say, like, there were a couple of points when I felt like there was a little bit of friction. Well, obviously there were certain points when like some of the dissonances didn't sit quite right. I did think, especially through the beginning, like half or 3/4 of the song, that you have a good ear for harmony, and you were doing some interesting harmonic things there, like with some different modes perhaps, and some unexpected things on each repetition. And then there were a few points towards the end where it started to fall apart a little bit, where the dissonances were more like confusing than unsettling, if that makes any sense. You want them to be unsettling, and there's ways to do that with there's lots of ways to do that, but confusing maybe not so much, because then it just means that you're sort of too far outside the sphere of correct or modal or whatever you want to call it. So there was that. There were a couple of points that just felt a little bit awkward in the arrangement when things dropped out, like on like halfway through a beat, like not, and then like not in unison things dropping out. There were a few of those where I was just kind of like, why? It was just sort of confusing again as to why we're dropping out in that way. Some of those decisions just felt maybe a little bit arbitrary, I think is what it comes down to.
Yep.
Rather than trying to elicit like a specific moment in your song that changes something.
Yeah.
That, and then what else was there? Maybe a couple of sounds in there that I didn't think were quite to the caliber of the others. Like there were a couple of like synth pads in the background that when other things cut out and those were exposed, they sounded a little bit cheesier, like less interesting than the other textures.
Yeah.
But that's kind of just stuff that like most of it actually I thought sounded pretty well done for this type of music. Those were the things that kind of made me feel like it was a little bit less professional than I thought, or a little bit less well put together. And it's just like you want to make sure that you kind of tuck the corners in and hide those things that might allude to people that it's not really professionally made.
Yeah.
But those are fairly small details.
Mhm.
Yeah, that I mean, I guess we can just sort of go through here. Uh,
Group 935 agrees. Sorry, what's up?
yeah,
Yeah.
vibes. I would say I like it for what it is.
Yeah.
Honestly, like again, I think some of those missteps in terms of like weird arrangement points and some of the sounds not being as high caliber as the others sort of detract from the vibe a little bit because again,
Yeah.
you're like, oh, maybe it is just a kid making this rather than like some really quality piece of
Yeah.
music even for a game setting. So I would give it a pretty close to good to go for this kind of thing, but somewhere in the middle.
Yeah. I give it a yellow.
Yeah. Um, then I guess for content, I mean, I'll have to say, I think for being 6.5 minutes long, and especially if you're aiming for a background music type thing, it's probably
Mhm.
better to be closer to that length than super short because it's not as useful as background music if it ends right
Mhm.
away. Um, and I think you did well with keeping it not too stale. Like you did change things up throughout, which I thought was good.
Mhm.
So I would, for this purpose, though, the
I don't know
arrangement
why you're
bit.
dropping out a lot
So,
today, Josh. For me, what did you say?
huh. I can still hear you there. I was just saying, it's pretty close to green, good to go on content, but there's a couple of things there, like I talked about with arrangement points that could be improved to bring content, up to a full green.
Yeah.
Do you have anything else on content?
Yeah. So I just wanted to share a couple things. Um, I think rumors kind of nailed it on the head, and what I was saying nailed it on the head too. For my opinion, was it sounded like video game music. And what the video games that I mentioned were like early 2000s or 1990s. So those guys were limited in sound choices um, because they had to like fit all the data onto this like weird cartridge that can't hold nearly as much
Yeah,
data as a CD can or whatever. Um, so like their sound choice being cheesy was like a limitation. So I don't see that as like when you're making music on a computer now, you don't really have that limitation. Um, and I like the cheesy sounding synths for the most part, but when you get so much of them on the same track, it does just seem to just sound less professional, kind of more goofy and um, what is it? Yeah, less professional, I think is what I'm trying to say. That's like the kind of vibe that I got with it, and that's kind of why I gave it a yellow. Which is sad because a lot of their stuff like that, like I don't even know what to call it. That beginning one that's playing throughout the whole song, by the way. It's like boom, bam, 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 like that. What is it, like an E piano? I'm not sure. Some sort of synth, and it's going through some sort of sequence. And the chords are cool and stuff and everything. I really like that sound, but I think what detracts from it is that it's repeated throughout the whole time with very little changes. Um, I would like to see you use that same instrument, but like change it up a little bit. Um, yeah, I think in terms of this kind of music, it's sure it's repetitive and some parts can be repeated throughout the whole song, but it's a question of which parts are there. Um,
yeah,
like for the drum beat, for example, like I could listen to a four on the floor all day and not get tired of it. Like that's fine, right? Or the hi hats. Like I love the hi hats, like when it's jumpy like that. And I think you did a good job with those. But with this like interesting kind of cheesy sounding synth comes in the first part, and like me and Josh are both like, oh, this sound design is really cool. But then you play the same thing over and over again, it loses it and it becomes stale throughout the whole song. Which, like I said, it's a shame because it is really cool by itself. It's just the arrangement that you put together made it stale, and that's kind of why I put a yellow in arrangement because I would redo that
right.
or tweak it. Yeah. Do you have anything on production in terms of this track, Josh?
Yeah, I mean, I think again, this one's pretty good on production. Like, we talked about, you've got some interesting sound choices. Some that are better than others, but for the most part,
Yeah.
it's like more interesting than the stuff that we've heard in this genre space so far. We've gotten
Yeah.
quite a few like sort of background game music type things, and I'd
Mhm.
say this is up there as one of the better ones. Um, but yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, aside from some of those sound choices possibly being a little bit better, I think it sounded pretty full in terms of spectrum and mix and mastering.
Yeah.
Not to say that it's like entirely perfect, but it's very close.
Yeah,
So I would give it pretty close to good to go on production, honestly.
I think so too. Like if we put sound choices or sample choices here, it's like a yellow green.
Yeah,
But yeah, in terms of everything else, I think the biggest problem with this track is the arrangement, really.
yeah, I agree
But yeah, overall, I think it's a yellow for me. What do you think,
for
Josh?
sure. Yeah, overall, I mean, honestly, I'd give it like 50% between develop and good to go.
Yeah, I did like a lot of it. Like, it brought me back to those video games I love to play, and I could see
Yeah,
it fit on that kind of soundtrack. But even with those soundtracks, like there's like a change up within the song, that like diverts your attention away and doesn't repeat like, the same old thing.
right.
I think yeah, it was just like that really interesting part that I really liked in the beginning. The fact that it got stale is a shame. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
agree. All
but
right,
cool, man.
cool.
Keep doing your stuff. I think you definitely have some talent, especially in the we think it's analog synth and sound design. So super cool.
Yeah, yeah. Keep
Thank you
let
for the
us know
submission.
what's up with that. Thanks. Yeah, thanks for sending us that.
Yeah.
All right, next up, drum roll, please. We've got
Chat,
Chesbro. Welcome
bro.
back again. And let's see. Oh, you sent us this one via email.
Damn it, chest, bro. No, it's okay. We
Damn
got
it. We can pull this up. Hopefully.
it. Yeah. Let's see. We got rumors in the house too. We got sacrifice, work in progress. We got another one. I don't know if we'll be able to get to it. What time is it? 6:26, maybe.
We've got, let's see. Got
Quick
two more
search.
after
Are you
this.
Dylan Davis? Are you in? Skidded. Are you in right now? In the chat because he just submitted something. What's up, chest, bro? Kaido. What's up, Kaido? How you doing, bro? Happy Friday. I'm a little sick. Sorry if I'm coughing up a storm on the stream, but yeah,
Well,
submit
the great
submit your
thing
song.
about doing everything virtually is that we're all safe.
Yeah, dude. I could have COVID. I'm not saying I do, but I wouldn't be able to give it to you guys until Google
Yikes.
invents that, like smell-o-vision or something.
Smell-o-vision, dude. I'm still waiting. People have been trying to do that since like the 40s at least.
That just
There's
sounds the
some
worst.
stuff you can look up. Yeah, you can look some shit up on Google about like the smellomatic or some shit, whatever they would call it
Sounds
back
awful.
then. Some pretty weird contraptions up there.
Oh, rumors. Yes, but you're one song away. Sorry. We're trying to get this Chess Bro song up. Do you have it, by the way, Josh?
It's make do all this confirmation bullshit.
Chess Bro, what'd you do, bro? You trying to dox us?
We're almost there. It would be super dope if you could send us a Google Drive link next time, but we still appreciate your business, being consistent on the stream. Let me just try
Yeah,
to
dude.
find this here.
The Morpheus comment had me dying, by the way. Pretty funny.
Stream. All right, there it is. Chesbro demo Agent Sunshine, and it's gonna open here.
Is it a link or is it a file?
It's a file, I believe.
Okay, so I have to open it up too.
Yeah.
Oh, dude, mine was super easy to play, but okay. I have it open. You ready?
Yeah. Let me just get it on the screen here
All right.
because it was in a different tab than the one that's shared.
All right, guys, we got Chess Bro, all caps. Remember the name. This song title is called Agent Sunshine. It's a work in progress. So help out our boy. Give some feedback in the chat. Let him know what he can do before he releases it. Description, he says, not sure about further development. Considering wrapping within dead space or maybe keeping it minimalistic. I like a vegetable structure, but convention is not a virtue I hold as an absolute. Yeah. I'm interested to hear this because usually your stuff is the opposite of minimalistic. So I'd like to see what your take is on this. You can follow him at www.bro.dog. Yeah, that's for real. Pretty crazy. But yeah, are you ready to play it?
Oh man, let's see. Let's see if we can get this working.
Maybe I can copy paste it to your chat. I have it ready, but
It's probably not a URL though, isn't it?
I don't know.
Oh,
Try
you
that.
did it from. Okay, let's see if that works.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think we should probably remove the email from there because I'm remembering that if we get files just emailed and they're like in the email itself,
Yeah.
They're a lot more difficult to open. Wow, this is super loud on my end for some reason.
No, that sounds like Chess Bro. Chess Bro's typically loud. Lights on sound by the way, if you didn't read it.
All right,
Oh, you're
I've got
scared.
it.
Okay, what's up, bro?
I've got it up now. What the fuck is going on?
You ready? I don't know what
Super
you're saying,
weird.
bro.
Weird volume interface with this HubSpot thing. All right. Yeah, we should be good to go.
All right, Agent, I think Sunshine. Let me see. Yeah, Agent Sunshine, work in progress. Chess Bro. 3, 2, 1.
Alright, so what's the game plan here? How are we doing this one? Well, oh, yeah, hey, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's 19 degrees and it's calling my name, not a cloud inside, or a worry in my brain, I swear life shine brighter when you learn pleasure from pain, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's warm outside, ring, ring, fate's calling, oh, whoa, whoa, oh no, I'm falling.
Chess Bro, I want you to rap on this one.
Oh, yeah, hey, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's 19 degrees and it's calling my name, not a cloud inside, or a worry in my brain, I swear life shine brighter when you learn pleasure from pain, the sun comes out, I can see a new day, it's warm outside, ring, ring, fate's calling, oh, whoa, whoa, oh no, I'm falling.
All right.
Ooh.
Agent Sunshine. No, no, no. Produced, mixed, mastered, rapped, sung by Chess Bro himself. We got some love in the chat too. Group
Yeah.
935 says, Chess Bro, this sounds lit. Thanks, bro. Adding people. Hey, I'm just saying what I hear. The vocals really pop with this though. It's nice. It's set one. Thank you, Kaido. I do think the vocals really pop as well. Josh, what's your first impressions with this?
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm impressed as usual with the fact that he did all of this himself.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's like the song definitely has a really uplifting vibe, which is cool. Um, let's see what else. I definitely like the song a lot. Oh, and the vocal thing too. That's what I was trying to think of. I think the vocals sound pretty clear overall. which is nice. The thing that I was kind of struggling with, to be honest, though, throughout pretty much right from the beginning, uh, man, there's got to be some sort of like crazy limiting or maximizing or
Yeah,
something
it's brick walled for
like
sure.
whoa, like
Yeah,
really your brain can't really handle listening to audio like that for a long time, and it was for me right from the beginning it was sort of like whoa, like information
yeah,
overload
yep.
because you're just like your bits are all at 100% like the whole way through, and
You
it's
debated
it's
us,
quite fatiguing
chess
on the
bro.
ear to not have any dynamic.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
you
pretty. It
debated us.
can be very fatiguing to not have any dynamic range. I would be really curious. I would actually be curious because you're here. What your mixing setup like? I just am curious to know like what kind of monitors you're using. What does your room look like? Was this mixed on headphones or with monitors? And did you apply some master bus compression and limiting to this? Because
Yeah,
those would be good to know just to sort of diagnose here. But
yeah,
yeah, that's the main thing I heard. There's just so much extra like spectral information that's just bombarding your ears because it's all
yeah.
compressed a lot.
Rumors
Um,
said the same thing. He says I felt the mix was a bit too overbearing. I think
yeah,
that's exactly what we hear.
which is
It's
a
brick
shame
walls.
because I think that the song underneath sounds really good. It's like a nice chord progression and it's again it got that nice uplifting vibe. The vocals sound really clear, but it's the whole thing is shrouded by this just like atomic bomb level of like compression and like well my of course I just compressed the shit out of my mic just now. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's my main thing, and that's for the production area. I might even just go backwards and say like production would definitely be a develop for me.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think pieces are there, but it might just help to like remove some of that master bus stuff or whatever's going on, or try out a more clear setup if that's the case. If you're not able to hear that on your own setup, that could be a real problem because other people are hearing it differently than you are.
yeah. It's hard to pinpoint each kind of instrument that's going on
Yeah,
when what we heard is what we heard because
I,
it
I
does
couldn't
sound
tell
brick
you.
wall.
Honestly, I couldn't tell you what instruments were going on there. KRK monitors. Okay, so that's a good like basic sort of
Rip ear rape.
option.
Not sorry, I just read his comment. Rip ear rape. Sorry, boys. I use FL Studio.
I glossed right over that part. Um, I mean, FL Studios is fine. Again, KRKs are like sort of entry level, but are okay. Uh, I
Rocket.
would say it's not mixed in the original. Export is lost, so it's the only file. Huh. Okay.
What?
Um,
So
that's an
damn. Are
issue.
you? Yeah. Will you be able to work on it still? That's
So
sad.
like this is a workflow thing. You should never like if you want to do music professionally and you lose files, you're fucked. Like
Hmm.
especially if you're a mixing engineer, right? If you ever do like client work for other people and you lose files, that's super
Cardi's
bad.
simplified.
Anybody who does creative work, whether it's like video or film or audio or music, backs up their files rigorously. So just like make sure you have a hard drive on hand and have that thing plugged in at your workstation or whatever, or just make
So,
sure to back it up every day or week or whatever.
yeah.
Because man, I mean we want to hear it like with some of those layers removed. Uh,
Yeah.
he said try to make it cap out at 6 to 7 decibel limiting wise, but that one's mixed somewhere upward of 8.
Valuable
Yeah,
NFT, one of a kind.
I mean again, if you're using a lim if you're using a
Cartoons.
limiter, if you're using a limiter or something that is applying limiting, it doesn't matter what your decibel cap is because if it's applying a hard ceiling, that ceiling could be at at 0 or it could be So yeah, I would just be super conscious of that. Again, maybe the room that you're mixing in it doesn't have any treatment, and you're really not hearing things the way they're actually happening. If stuff is reverberating, and uh, there's a whole other science to all of that stuff. But even with decent monitors in a room that's too small or is too reverberant, you're really not. It's like trying to paint with like rose-colored glasses on, sort of. Um, so yeah, I would just definitely be careful about that stuff. Do you have anything else about production? I guess we're sort of going backwards here a little bit in the
Well,
categories.
I mean, honestly, it's the first thing that we heard, like from the very beginning.
Right.
It just everything sounded brick wall. Which it's unfortunate you can't fix it, chess bro. It was kind of interesting because what we usually hear from you is like really energetic kind of spin vocals at your fucking throat, and this was kind of like a nice kind of soft change up of you singing, and it sounded pretty decent. A lot of the people kind of agree with us that it came through the mix really well. But yeah, everything else just sounded very distorted. Like at one point I was like, oh man, the kick is really smashed, and I was like, oh wait, actually this like synth and drum pattern is really smashed too. And I was like, oh no, just like the whole thing is kind of smashed.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you could still work on it, that's what we would give you. But I mean, if you can't find it, that's unfortunate. But on to the next
Great.
project. Just try
But
not
by
to.
the way,
But
yeah, he put a couple things in the chat here. Said
what
I have the
compression do
original
you
beat
recommend?
and breakdown, but not the original vocal stems. He says I use a baby blue bottle
Powered mic.
um,
Okay.
powered mic, which that's fine. I think your vocals sound okay. I don't think there's anything wrong with that mic. Honestly, I've heard people get good results from it.
Hmm.
220 ohm headphones doesn't really say much, unless without knowing what they are specifically.
Yeah.
That could
What?
be an option if your room setup is really bad and you can't invest in treating the room.
Yeah.
If you have good enough headphones, especially open back like Sennheiser HD, whatever 600 somethings, that can be a pretty good option for me. Or even like Audio Technica AT-M50X or whatever the fuck they're called.
Yeah. The classic.
But he's also talking about yeah. I mean, these are in studios like everywhere. Like people who can afford $1,000 headphones use these because they're so sort of widespread and reliable. They're like the SM58 of headphones.
Hmm.
But he's also asking about compression recommendations. I would say I don't really have a compression recommendation because honestly, most you can compression itself is one thing that you can really do with stock stuff if you need to.
Yeah.
It's a pretty basic, process or algorithm. Instead of trying to recommend you a plugin, I would say what's probably happening here is you're using a compressor. Maybe you're trying out different presets, or you're changing knobs around, and you're probably choosing whatever is loudest. That's a common mistake, especially when you're starting out with this stuff. That your ear likes things that are louder, right?
Yeah.
You like to eat things that have a lot of salt and sugar, but that's also
Mhm.
not great for you in excess.
Yeah.
What you want to do is when you're tweaking compressor settings, be very, very cognizant of level matching. So if the level gets louder, you turn your levels down or turn the track down or turn the output of the compressor down so that you can A/B the two and see if it actually sounds better. Because a lot of the time you realize like, oh, at the same volume, the one that I compressed is actually not as dynamic and doesn't sound as good. So that's the biggest tip I can give you with compression.
Yeah.
Says
For
Audio
me, it depends.
Technica.
With vocals, I typically use I found like some compressors sound better, but I think he's talking with like full track, and I agree with Josh. Like you can
Yeah,
slap on the Ableton stock, or I don't know what FL has, but it's mostly like I don't know if this is what you did, but this is what I used to do. Is like I would just try to push up everything with my limiter until right before it started clipping and being distorted. Um, but even doing that, like it's still very you could tell it's very much brick walled and it's very much ear fatiguing, and the way that you've arranged the song, um, like usually you limit to like the loudest part of the song so you make sure that doesn't clip, but your loudest part of the song is like the whole song, so that's why it gets so
yeah.
fatiguing.
It's hard to
um,
tell. There's kind of a blanket over everything right now where I
yeah.
really can't even assess the other elements because they're just like kind of buried by the overall compression that's happening.
Yep. Oh, I just wanted to what is it, acknowledge the people in chat. Slit me open, yummy blood DX. Hey, I made a Legends Never Die remix. Is that by Juice WRLD? The 27 Club. I can't sing right now, but send it in, bro. Both two strapping young demons. We're demons now, by the way, Josh. They're going
Oh
through some
wow.
chat stuff. What compression do you recommend for Vox? I double compress and send the Vox to a reverb. One main channel for main Vox, four backing Vox, two left, two right. All sent to one reverb track. No, that sounds pretty standard. Um, would you mix the
Yeah,
vocals
but
differently via layers?
I
Mix the
mean,
vocals differently.
some of
I
this stuff is
so
like
if I do backing vocals, I would typically cut off the low end a little bit more, such that the body of the vocal comes through the main one. In terms of compression, what I recommend for Vox, because like I said, for me, I found that some plugins do better for my personal ear. Sorry, a lot of people in the hip hop game use Waves plugins. So I think for my vocals specifically, I do Waves CLA 76, I think.
Yeah,
Um,
those are great. 1176 clones are generally good, but
yeah.
you know,
So if I were to give you one recommendation for you to look up, just try that. It's a pretty simple interface too, so it's hard to do wrong. Let's put it that way.
yeah,
With
that's
some
true.
with some limiters and compressors, that they have a lot of stuff you can tune. If you don't know what you're doing, you could end up in a situation where it sounds really bad and you don't know how to get out of
Yeah,
it. So I think
that's true.
the CLA plugins are pretty nice for that. Yeah. Sorry, Josh, what's up?
Yeah. Um, I would also just say that like, I mean, your setup sounds okay. Although, I mean, you are saying like double compress and then send to a reverb, main channel for main box, and 4 backing vocals, 2 left, 2 right, all sent to one reverb track. Would you mix the vocal? It's again, it's hard to say without digging into it because it's not just about like the configuration of
SSL is
stuff.
good too.
That, yeah, SSL is also great. It's not really about like the configuration of what you're doing, although that's good to know. It's more about how you're arranging things and setting them up, right? Because it's like it's
Yeah.
a drastically different result depending on how you're actually parameterizing. It's not the right word, but you know what I mean. Like we can't really tell
Yeah.
you like you should have this chain and it'll sound great. Like you have, at the end of the day, your ears are the only thing that will create a positive end result.
Yeah.
So
I
yeah,
think
I would
the
say
point
like
where sorry, I think where the point where chains, like specific ones, matter is like after you have the basic settings down.
yeah,
Like after it sounds pretty good and you want to have like a specific color to your sound that only one thing kind of
yeah,
does automatically, that's when you're like, okay, let's do SSL or let's do Wave. But yeah,
right.
before that,
They're
like, yeah,
tricks. They're tricks that you can use for sure, but it's more like the sort of pyramid of hierarchy here is first you need to get your listening setup down because if you can't see or hear clearly, you're not going to be able to make any decisions as you think you're actually making them. They're not going to translate to other people's ears or listening systems the same way. So step one, make sure that your listening system is right. Then you need to understand the basics of like why is my compression sounding better to my ears but then sounding worse to other people's, and that could be like the technique is not there. So making sure that you're not just getting louder, volume matching before you do those things, and then understanding like once you start to do that, you start to get much greater insight into what different effect parameters, especially with compression, actually do to your sound rather than just sort of like aimlessly turning things around and usually actually just getting a volume difference and then assuming it sounds better. When you can level match compare these parameters, it makes a world of difference to getting a more finely tuned sound and understanding what your compressor is doing. So
how
I would
can how
start.
can how can you do that? I know that some plugins like Ozone, for example, for limiting, they have a gain match feature where they like
Yeah,
bring everything like before you put it into limiter and then after and then
yeah.
match it to see like, okay, did you actually smush the sound or does it sound actually better? How do you do that without something like that?
Yeah, simplest way to do it is just there's usually almost always an output volume on the limiter or compressor that you're using.
Yeah.
So play with that until and turn the plugin off and turn it off and on until it sounds like they're at the same volume.
Okay.
That it's not always like perfectly gonna match because compressors often will add some character in different frequency ranges, and so you might have louder volume in your low end, but quieter in your high end, and then level matching them can be a challenge sometimes. But if that's what you're
Yeah. As
going
a rule
for,
of
and
thumb, I see.
yeah, as a rule of thumb, try to get them close so that one isn't clearly louder and sounding better to your ears, which can kind of be a letdown because you're like, oh my god, it sounds so much better now. Then you level match them, you're like, fuck, the original sounded better.
Yeah.
If there's nothing wrong with it, don't compress it. There are tracks that you may not actually need to compress, especially if you're going through something like a baby blue, like a bottle. Fuck, there's too many words in that name, but that mic I think does apply some light sort of compression type effect. And depending on what preamp you're going through, you might already be applying some compression without knowing it. So you may not need to add as much as you think. There are a lot of mixing engineers out there who, when they get a track that sounds good from the start, they do as little as possible to it because you don't want to ruin something that already sounds good. There's no reason to. Now we've got a lot of chat going on here?
Yeah. I think
Okay,
we
let's
should
see.
we
This
kind of
dude
wrap
with
it up though
the
with
what is
Chess
that?
Bro though.
What is his username?
Hello. Oh, Josh
Colors
muted out.
when you hear music. Sometimes a little bit. Do
Yo,
you?
Josh.
Yeah, what's up?
Yeah, Josh. Yeah, let's wrap up Chess Bro before we read to the next chat because we've been on it for a while. Um,
Yeah,
so
sure.
thank you, Chess Bro, for sending it.
Wait, we never
We,
did our
we
scores.
yeah, I'm trying to get to that. In terms of vibes, if I were to just go through it real quick, um, this sounds mostly smushed. I think your vocal delivery is refreshing from what I've heard before. I actually, in those blank sections, I would like you to actually put in some of the more energetic rap. That's what I was waiting for. I was kind of craving. I think vibes, I would say, to kind of like a yellow. I'm waiting on it. Content. I think content-wise, it was decent. It was unfinished, right? So, but I'd rather have you those energetic rapping sections there. So it's like a yellow green for me. And then production, I think it's definitely a yellow because I think it sounds brick wall to shit. Um, for an overall track of yellow, please develop it, and hopefully you can find the originals. If not, I mean, you can record vocals again. It's all good. Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm just requesting access on Rumors' file. Looks like it's not shared.
Damn, rumors, come on, bro, you got to give us access.
That's why I opened it because I was worried that was going to happen. But yeah, let's see. Vibes, I would say again. I think we went through this, but I thought it was vibes were nice, although kind of impinged by the other factors there that we talked about already. So I give it like mostly good to go. Probably like halfway between develop and good to go. Content a little bit hard to tell because it was just mostly the focus was on the whole thing sounding like too saturated, um, and I don't know, I'd probably give it again like between yellow and green on that one, just because it's a little hard to tell. And I did think that the end part, there were maybe a few too many repetitions of that same part, uh, without a whole lot else happening, so that could be a factor. And production, like we talked about, that's definitely like a developer, maybe even Orange, honestly, because there's some stuff that should be redone in terms of processing there. Although I don't know if that's possible now, but hopefully that information is useful for creating a more robust mixing routine and setup, and just gaining more knowledge in that area, because that's super important for the end product. So yeah, track totals, I would give it a develop probably overall.
Yep, I think so too. Sorry, coughing up a storm.
I
Got a
feel like
sinus
you're
infection, boys.
yeah. All right, cool. Yeah, thanks, Chesbro, for sending us stuff. It's always interesting to hear every week. Always something different from you, so keep it up.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to rumors. Is if we've got access.
Yeah, he looks like he said he fixed it. I see colors when listening. The vibes changes every time. Dark, close my eyes. Do you see colors? I don't see colors like this guy does. I wish. When you listen to music.
Yeah, not. I wouldn't say colors. Although one thing that this is kind of interesting, humans experience synesthesia more than other animals do. So we do have more associations between different sensations and stuff, which is why like we talk about textures in music, and all sorts of shit like that. We do
Because
kind
we
of have
ate
a little bit of
shrooms.
that. Oh, yeah. Well, that is why.
Yeah, way back in the day. With
Yup.
psilocybin?
Yeah, man. Searching for food, and there's
Yeah,
shrooms.
dude.
So
I watched
go
Joe
figure.
Rogan.
Yeah,
I'm informed.
exactly.
All right.
Who's that guy? The guy with the mushroom hat? He has a hat that's made of like a giant portobello mushroom. Yeah,
Toad?
there. Uh,
Like from the
yeah.
Mario Brothers?
No. It's a real guy. He's like one of the experts on mushrooms. There's a Netflix thing called Fantastic Fungi. I think that he's like the main dude in. It's kind of interesting.
I gotta
Apparently,
check it out.
like trees communicate with each other underground because of mushrooms. It's confusing, but it's cool.
Mushrooms, crazy.
All right,
Cool.
this one is Sacrifice by Rumors.
Fire.
There is no description, so let's just go right into it.
It's a work in progress, by the way.
Work in progress, yes.
Yep.
All right.
Shout out Revenger Crew for sending us through, connecting us. But yeah, let's do it.
Hey, yeah,
Rumors.
let's go.
What's the track name again? Sacrifice. Three,
Sacrifice.
2, 1.
You wanna see me down, is it so? Hard to cut me out of the show. Hard to pull me out of the snow. I was numb to the pain, but my heart's grown cold. It's hard to figure out where I go. Till you find out, I don't know. I sacrifice my life and my soul. Couple pennies on the song and their opinions. You know, usually I'm my biggest critic, let's admit it. Even when I put 100% on these middies, it ain't good enough. I tear it up, then break it down, no progress. People hating how it sounds, I double down the process. My homies gas me up, but lately I've been empty. My check engine light is on, but the crash is so tempting. I've given up so many times, it's hard to quit quite simply. Cause how can I get to that green when I'm filled with envy? Critics say I got a lack of talent. I whine on every track, but I ain't getting drunk. From the rose till my rose is black. On my casket, this is madness. Why they waiting for my coffin? Sorry for the inconvenience. Shit, I say that way too often. Don't wanna be apologetic. No, I said it, get the message. I ain't getting credit till the medic says I'm copacetic. And I think I learned my lesson. Everybody wants my blessings, but I've been out for a while. Sacrifice it for a second. A thing. You wanna see me down, is it so? Hard to cut me out of the show. Hard to pull me out of the snow. I was numb to the pain, but my heart's grown cold. It's hard to figure out where I go. Till you find out, I don't know. I sacrificed my life and my soul. Couple pennies on a song and their opinions are low.
Oh, I like this
Chris,
one.
you want
Rumors!
Alright,
Yeah!
I like this switch up though.
Okay, fuck you, I don't need your pity. People know I run the city. Got a girl and damn, she's pretty. Man, I hope she don't think I'm hideous. I made an album straight from scratch. Pour my heart on all the tracks, but this one here, I'm done with that. People say I've gotten cocky, I just say I found my way. I'm laying down my arrogance. I eat the cake like anime. Better days and better trebuchet. Yeah, I feed on exposure. My freedom is vulgar. They need them pulled over. You gotta catch me first. I got an evil composure. You'll see it October when I'm the hottest of the fucking multiverse. Doctor, 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 can you help me something strange? Had to take a minute just to marvel at my change. I used to be a comic till I stood up for myself. Took a page out the book. Now I'm sending them to hell.
Bow.
Woo! Wow.
Bow, bow, bow. That was Rumors, everybody. Shout out ESMR Revengers. There's a lot to unpack there, bro. There's a lot.
Yeah.
What's crazy is I think you have energy, but it's not all the way there. Like the first thing that I can think of is just this whole song. You have energy, you have confidence, you can obviously rap pretty well. But there's something missing for me to push it over the edge of being kind of like commercially successful. And the way that I could distill it is that, like for that last section, right? You were up all the time, you had the energy there, but it didn't feel unhinged like I think that you were trying to go for. The ad libs, when you're going bow, that's the kind of energy I need on the main vocal. But I think for the ad libs, for example, in that last part, repeating it that many times, it got a little bit annoying. But that's more of a detail. Like just in general, um, I think in moments you really do bring the energy that you need, but you don't sustain it for as long as I think you need to do it. Um, and so that manifests in sometimes your flow. Um, it sounds way too close to the grid. But if you were really kind of going off the fucking wall, going super hard, it would probably be a little bit off the grid. It would be sounding like more natural of a sentence of you talking rather than, or you screaming rather than you reading the lyrics or something like that. But yeah, the change up was cool. Uh, I could tell that you're like writing about stuff that you're going through and you're keeping it real. That's super dope. Um, you mentioned about your critics how you whine on every song, and then proceed to whine on the in the beginning part at least. Um, So I don't know, maybe take some of that criticism there a little bit. It does feel a little bit corny there, but I can tell you got skill. I can tell you got energy, and I want you to kind of push it to the next level. Um, Sorry, that was kind of like in depth as a first impression, but that's what I hear. So, Josh, what do you think?
Yeah, no, that's. I think those are really good in depth tips on the artistry and flow side.
I
Um,
go through the same shit, rumors. Like that's why I feel like I'm in a similar lane with you. So
yeah,
that's
and
why
I
I
was
can
gonna
go
say,
talk about that.
Chris knows that stuff well, so I think that's definitely advice to take seriously. Um,
That shit I'm still learning.
and I mean, from my perspective, I would say like I was definitely most impressed by your overall like energy and artistry and all of that stuff. I think it's
Mm.
pretty close to there. I can see what Chris means about a little bit of room for improvement and reaching that sort of professional radio level status. But I think it's like really it's more impressive than anything to me where you're at this point.
Yeah,
Um,
a lot of things to like for sure. A lot of things.
yeah, yeah, for real. I mean, the thing honestly for me that I feel like is like your energy, I think is really good and all of that in the writing. I think the arrangement and the source material and the recording, I think, is like pretty damn good, like pretty impressive on throughout this. The one thing that I felt like was that all of it could have sort of been opened up just a little bit more sonically. The main thing I was noticing is that the vocals were somewhat noticeably brighter and more forward than the rest of the track. And it sort of makes you feel like the rest of the track is sort of laying behind the vocals somewhere in the background, kind of, and there's kind of like a haze in front of it. And then the vocals are kind of a little bit too present compared to the actual track. I would love to have more of the track surround the vocals so you sort of hear things, in stereo around you more rather than sort of behind you with the vocals right in your head. Um, and that's of course a production thing, but it was very subtle, but I think it could make a really big difference actually because of how much you've got going on here and the nature of having these multiple vocals and all that stuff.
Yeah,
Um, I did like the sort of like jump breaks and like all that stuff in
yeah,
there. It's sort of fun. Uh, but yeah, I would just say like there's some really subtle things that could be really important for making it sound professional in terms of mix. Where again, I don't know exactly what's happening, but it just oh, I also did hear a little bit of distortion on a lot of
the
the
latter end.
vocals. Yeah,
Yeah.
probably
Um,
oversaturation somewhere.
yeah, Group 935, by the way, or I forgot what his name was, Skitter or something. He did mention something that I wanted to get to was the vocal effects sound off key for that first part. Yeah, I think the hook,
Mm,
there was like some sort of like chorus effect maybe or something where you like layering a bunch of different keys of the same vocal on top of each other, but they weren't in the same key of the song. So it sounded a little bit weird. I'd like to hear that a little bit more
yeah,
dry. It actually gave me like a 347 Aiden type sound, kind of hollow and like far away, like you're screaming in the mic, but you're like in the back of the room where the mic's in the front of the room, which is cool.
yeah,
But yeah, when it's detracted by um, out of key tuning, it's not good. So yeah, good point,
definitely.
Group 935. Appreciate you.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess in terms of vibes for me, I would say it's pretty damn close, pretty close to good to go.
I think for me, beginning is yellow vibe, and then the ending was green vibe.
Yeah, yeah, that
Like
makes
I really
sense.
fucked with the ending. The energy was super cool. Reminded me of like
Yeah,
Baby Keem type, just unhinged, but it's
yeah.
90% there. You know what I'm saying, Rumors?
Looks like Chesbro agrees with that.
Yep.
Uh, then on content, I would say again, I think the source material is pretty good for this, and overall, artistry and all that stuff. I think the actual content is pretty fucking good.
Yeah.
I would say I'd say good to go pretty much on that. Maybe a couple of little small tweaks you could make based on stuff we've talked about, but yeah,
Yeah, I think I can agree with that actually. Yeah. I mean, it might even be like there's a lot of people. There's like some artists who do get a rap for like writing on beats or whatever. And like for me, it's not my personal taste. And rumors that just might be you like submitting to the wrong people because like people like um, I think like Logic or NF for example or rappers that kind of talk about their problems, and some people say that they're whiny, but they're super successful. And honestly, they're very talented. It might just not be for some of us that like fucking Playboy Cardi, who talks about nothing. So, just find the right audience. But yeah, I could agree with that. Like, even though I didn't really like it per se, or it's not my cup of tea, I think it's solid. I think it's
Yeah.
a good, yeah.
And then for production, I would say 60 to 70% between yellow and green, like closer to green.
Yeah.
Just a couple of those things, like with it's pretty much the whole thing. Like vocals are distorting just a little bit, maybe a little bit too much, and the rest of the track sounds just a little bit too far removed, with the vocals being a little bit too present, kind of too bright and right in front. That's
Yeah.
the main takeaways.
It sounds like what I do a lot, which is slap a vocal on top of a beat already. I think you have a producer though. Rumors. Correct me if I'm wrong. Um, but yeah, I always preach the dynamic EQ with the vocals. Find the spot
Yeah,
of the EQ that your vocal really pops, and then duck that spot in the beat and do it dynamically. Um, but yeah, or flat, or one time. It doesn't have to be dynamic; it can be static. But yeah,
right.
I think I agree with Josh there. It's between yellow and green. For an overall track, I think it's yellow to green as well, in between the two.
Yeah,
Um,
no, I would say pretty squarely in the middle for me.
hmm.
All right.
How does one get top tier? Because I want to see if my song in your eyes is top tier. I think you're next, so you'll get to see. Um, we have a playlist. If you guys want to check out what songs made the top tier, it can get you a good idea. Basically, what happens is we're listening to it, right? And the song just connects with us immediately. So what happens typically for us is there needs to be a threshold of like this sounds professional that needs to be hit first, or else we're going to talk about that right at the gate, which has happened with a lot of the songs that we get, right? But once it passes that threshold, then it's like, oh, I really fucking dig this. Then it's a top tier track.
Yeah,
Um, so it doesn't happen often, but keep submitting and it just might be there. And
right.
hopefully we can give you some tips that'll help you break past that threshold.
Yeah.
So,
So I mean, you've got to have the basics down first of all, which is the categories that we go down through here.
yeah,
But then it's just like, is this, does it really exude something special? Does it make us feel something, basically, right? Because we do get stuff occasionally that's like, you know, really well arranged and mixed and all that stuff, but it, doesn't evoke a whole lot of emotion or
yeah, that
response.
first song actually, Gary with 2 R's, like it sounded really great, professional, and
Right.
but it was just like yeah, kind of hollow.
Yeah. Exactly. All right. Let's get to it. Let's pull this next one up.
Okay. Yeah, while you do that, I have my own engineer, rumor says. He's new to the game and still learning. I don't know anything about mixdowns, haha. True. Get your engineer to watch us, bruh. Um, but yeah, you got some special things going on, rumors. I appreciate you submitting it. Yeah, try to work on that delivery with some energy. I know you have it in you because you hit it. It's just not consistent, like all the way through. Like near the end of the bars, it would be like, it sounds like you petered But
Jeez.
yeah, um, cool. I think that was a fucking solid sounding track for real.
Yeah.
I thought it
Yeah.
sounded super professional. I used to listen to D&B back in the day, back when dubstep was super huge. So that brought me back a little bit. I thought he kept it fresh the whole time. Um, some of the stuff like oh, excuse me, the pre-drop bass stuff got me like doing some stank faces. I thought it was super cool.
Yeah.
Um, what do you think, Josh?
Yeah. I mean, I'd have to agree. I think for the most part, it sounds super professional. I think the most impressive thing and probably the hardest to do is getting the kick and the snare to really cut through, and they absolutely do that. Um, I even think like I mean that's the most impressive part, and like props to you for getting that stuff down. That's super important for this genre, obviously.
Yep.
The one thing is, I wish at the end there were some pretty cool like synth pad type things going on that I
That changed
wish
it.
were a little bit, yeah, that I wish were a little bit more like expansive to where you could really hear them sort of swelling and actually just hear them a little bit better because you've got the the kick and the snare really punching through the mix, but it's a fairly fast beat with that, and they punch through so much that each time they punch through, they really take over everything else to where it's
Yep.
like at points I wish what was going I could hear what was going on harmonically, like some of those synth pads and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, still, I think it's the harder thing to do usually is getting those to really punch through. So your side chaining is working well there.
Yep.
Um, yeah, do we want to go through the categories?
Um, yeah, I can. Just to add on that, I do agree with you. That was the first thought that I thought of was that the kick I think comes through too much. Just in general.
Hmm.
Um, and for me specifically, I love drum and bass, especially for the breaks. Like that kind of higher, they kind of shove it in the higher frequency, and like you have this like intricate drum pattern. It's super fast and it sounds super dope. So in the
Yeah,
same manner that you say, like you hear all these super interesting synths that are happening, especially around like 248, the change up I thought was super sick, and then that's where the breaks were as well. Like you could hear them, bro. I think that balance is like something you should strive for. I thought that was really good.
yeah,
But yeah, like for a lot of the song, I think the kick maybe was just coming through a little bit too much. But for the most part, man, I couldn't find much. That's kind of nitpicking. So vibes, Josh Bro hit it on the head. I feel like, what did he say? I feel like hacking North Korea's only fax machine. Yeah, exactly. I felt like I was like speed running Minecraft shit or something. Like that
yeah.
kind of vibe, like a late night rock star drinking type beat. But um, I really liked it. I thought it was super solid. Maybe stank face a couple bit. I think that's a grand for me. Um,
Same.
content, I think arrangement wise, I thought it was pretty decent. Like away from the drop, and like kind of the latter parts, I really liked it when you brought it back and then did something interesting with some of the synths, some of the beat boops there at 248. Let me see. Yeah, like I just and then the breaks and stuff. Sorry, I just played that on my end just to remember, but yeah, I thought that was pretty good. I think content wise, it was pretty much green too. Production, it's pretty much green. Maybe in between the yellow and green, just because I think that the kick pops out a little bit too loudly and kind of takes away from the rest of the stuff that's happening in the song. Um, but it sounds pretty much professional. I could see this on like UKF drum and bass, especially back in the day.
Yeah,
My
yeah,
voice is running out, bro. Fuck. But yeah, Josh, what do you have?
yeah. I would. I mean, again, I'll preface this by saying I think that overall it's super professional sounding. I do think that there's a little bit of room. Like vibes, first of all, is a green for me. I think it serves its purpose. Content. One thing that I did notice, I think the second third of the song between those 2 points in the waveform you can see there. Um, there might be a little bit too much repetition for my taste. Like I was starting to feel like around the just after the 3 minute mark, like wishing it would be a little bit shorter overall because it felt like 3 minutes to 417 or 418 was kind of a long ways. That being said, you did end it on a good note. I think you made it interesting at the end there, and that helps the listener to feel like it wasn't wasted time, like after it's over. But I do feel like in the middle, it just feels like it's dragging on a little bit at some points. So might want to consider shortening that up just a tiny bit. Content for that reason, I would give it a very close to good to go, almost there. But couple of things there. And for production, again, the drums the drums coming through the mix is very impressive, and overall it sounds good. I think it's right on the edge of having just a tiny bit too much, either limiting or saturation, which again is very common because we live in the age of the loudness wars. Everybody wants their track to be as loud as possible, and your ears like it more when it sounds louder when you're not level matching. But to sound really professional, I think just dialing it back like a hair, like literally a hair on the saturation there, and perhaps on some of the limiting, it is just ever so slightly ear fatiguing, where it's, again, that thing of just being kind of crushed a little bit. You start to lose your bit depth, and things start to distort. So yeah, that's what I would say on production. I don't really have anything else other than that, and I would give it between develop and good to go, but closer to good to go.
I think overall this is a solid good to go, by the way.
Yeah, I'd say so too. Yeah, definitely. Solid good to go. All right, let's hit this next one. I think this is probably going to be our last.
Yeah, I'm feeling
Thanks for sending us that, by the way. If you have more stuff next week.
Yes, get it. I actually had a track commented and liked by someone on Bass Nation. That's what I mean. Yeah, you're right there, bro. You're right there. Some of the sounds and little breaks that you were doing sounded fantastic.
Yeah, that's cool.
Good job.
Very impressive.
Super cool. All right, what do we have next? Sorry, guys. Right. My sinus infection is going crazy right now.
Almost there. All right.
Yeah.
I'll save you from having to narrate this.
This
is Kaido. I believe Kaido is in the chat here. Song title is Red, all caps. And project description: Chill Vibe wanted to test my drums on this one and getting a real good bass. Haha, I'd try my best. Hope you like it. All right, let's listen to that bass and drums.
All right, just a second. I clicked the streaming link, not the actual song. Okay, there we go. Red by Kaido. All right. Is that lingerie? All right, sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it was like my eyes went straight there.
It's getting steamy.
All right.
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yeah.
3,
Kaido, Red.
2, 1, go. Cool looking waveform.
Interesting, yes.
Although I can see some brick walling already.
Gotta love it.
Maybe it sounds good. We'll see. Expecting a chord change or a note change.
Yep. Sonically, it sounds pretty good though.
Sounds like it's on the... Let me think.
I can't hear you.
needs to go to 1. I need the resolve and a vocalist. That'd be nice.
That was Kaido, Red.
There we
Sorry,
go.
Josh. I didn't hear what you said. I couldn't hear you. What did you say during the song?
I was just well. I don't remember what I said exactly.
Oh,
I
that's
mean,
fine.
the main things that I would want to address. Oh, I think I was talking about how it sounded that chorus part sounds like it's on a 4 chord probably, and I'm waiting for it to go back to 1 for that
Mm,
resolve, right?
mm,
Do do do. You want it to go back down.
mm.
Uh,
Oh, you need the bass note?
yeah.
Okay.
Well, the bass note has the foundation for the whole chord that's happening, right?
Yeah.
You're on a 4 chord the whole time, and we had to wait until we got back to the verse to have any semblance of resolve, which is like
Mm,
a long time there.
mm,
You're definitely testing out your bass here, and
mm,
I'd say that the quality of really all of the source material and the sounds is very good, which again is not the easiest part. So that's very impressive. I just feel like the first thing I noticed, and you can see it too there, but I was surprised by like beginning. I was turning my volume up because I couldn't really hear. Like I wanted to hear that lead piano part more, and so like I didn't have enough of it in the mix, and so I was turning up a little bit, and then this slow, probably near automation, I would guess, is bringing up a bunch of stuff for like a long time to the point where I had to turn my volume back down because it's getting too loud now. Um, and that happened a little bit later somewhere in the song too, where like something was just automating up when it was like not a very smooth use of automation, in my opinion. Like you don't really want to make super drastic changes with gradual volume like that because your listener's going to have to change their volume. I would just want to hear a little bit more, especially of that little lead pianette part at the beginning of the song and maybe throughout, relative to the rest of the mix, and not have so much volume automation like that. You can do
mm.
some, but it's just if it starts too quiet and ends much louder, it's going to be disastrous for the listeners' levels.
I
Um,
actually thought it was okay the way that he did that. I think it built a lot of tension,
it
and I think
definitely it built tension. I just think it could be executed a little bit better. Like I wouldn't disagree with having the volume automation, but I
mm,
was again at multiple points in the song turning up to hear that lead, hear the melody in that lead thing a little bit more, and then things were changing a little bit too drastically to where I had to actually like turn back down.
volume.
But
Okay,
sorry,
okay.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Do you have first impressions?
Um, yeah, sorry, I'm just reading the chat here. Should I change the melody half song, the peanut ballad? Short answer is yes. I'll get to that later. Um, so yeah, first impressions, I think you build tension really well, in ways that are non-musical. So kind of Josh talked about the volume automation. I thought it was like decent actually in the beginning. I thought it was cool. I didn't hear it later on, so maybe it might be weird to put it in the middle of a song, but in the beginning, I was like, oh, I'm excited for this drop. I looked at the drop and I was like, oh no, it's brick wall. This is gonna sound bad, but it actually sounded pretty clear and pretty decent. So I was happily surprised by that. I think the whole song kind of sounds pretty professional in terms of quality. I think my biggest gripes are an arrangement, and one of them is that piano sample that we'll talk about. Um, but yeah, that's my first impressions. Very kind of spacey Starry Night vibe in that middle section there. I like it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I like that too. And again, I just think the main thing is like you got to have more than one note in the whole chorus. You know, like there needs to be some movement there for sure.
Yeah, dude,
And
that
I would
piano sample, like, it, what is it? It's overworked, bro. You need to pay it
yeah,
overtime. You need to get some other staff. That piano
right.
sample is overworked.
Well, again, the piano sample is hanging on the same chord as is the bass, and so it's just a one chord through the whole chorus.
Yep.
Uh, there are examples. There are songs out there that are essentially a one chord throughout, but this is the kind of thing where it's begging for the resolve. It's begging to go back to the one chord with the
Yep.
bass in there.
Yep.
The only other thing I could think of, again, your sounds and source material sound really professional. Things are pretty well put together. But I did feel like it was partly a symptom of the bass staying on the same note the whole time there, but also the bass sounded like a carbon copy each time. Like it sounded like I'm just hearing the same, velocity if it's a MIDI note, or I'm hearing the exact same sample. And again, it would be alleviated by changing the note to some extent, but if you can have any sort of variance on that, or something to make it sound like it's not just a copy paste situation, it might help to make it feel a little bit more natural and sort of flow a little bit more naturally. Um, but yeah, I think in terms of vibes, I like it a lot. I think it would help to have a little bit more of that harmonic movement to improve the vibes. But it's definitely on the way. I would give it between developing good to go. Um, Content, I would say this is the part that needs some work. Like this could do really well with vocalists on it. I think. Uh, I think it sort of needs that, if not having just more like variation, like more little things that kind of pop in and out of existence to keep things interesting. And again, changing the chordal structure, the harmonic structure of it to be a little bit more moving. So content, I would give it a yellow probably to develop. And then for production, we're close, but again, I think there's like you're halfway there. Your sounds are really great, but the volume automation could use a little bit of work, like your levels throughout. Maybe making that lead part more audible, or adding some variation to it somehow, and your bass just feeling a little bit more natural, that kind of thing. So production, I would probably give you just above a develop, like 30% between develop and good to go. But Chris, what do you think?
Sorry, just coughing my brains out.
Yeah,
Slit me open, yummy blood DX. Appreciate you for understanding, man. As you can see, I'm dying over here. But if you could use that form, we'll definitely get to you next time we stream. And also, that symbol's not a target symbol. It's my home's flag. It's Okinawa. It's an island off of Japan. They call it the
cool.
Hawaii of Japan. So kind of going through your stuff here, vibes. Um, I thought it sounded, pretty decent, pretty spacey, pretty Starry Night. I think you held that consistency throughout the whole song with the samples that you chose. And I thought the production for the most part was pretty solid. Um, I do think that that piano sample, like you just overworked it. I think you need to, introduce some more melody into it for sure. Um, so vibes, I think it's pretty much green, maybe in between green and yellow though, just because of those reasons. There's kind of like cross bleed between these topics, so we try to keep them separate. But in terms of keeping them separate, I think content is the one that Josh said too needs the biggest work, because we lump arrangement into content as well. And for me, like the reason why I said you build tension really well without doing anything musically is that that sample, like for example, it's a piano sample that's climbing. It's like like during that build up, it kind of ruins the build up to go back to that lower note, right? It like musically, it just like you're building up a scale, blah blah blah, and then you go back down, but then you do that the whole time throughout the whole song. So it doesn't like as Josh said, there's some stuff that you can loop throughout the whole song that works, but typically you have to be really selective with those kind of samples. And this is one sample I don't think that does work throughout the whole song because, as Josh was saying, it's begging to be resolved, but it never does. And the samples that do kind of tell their own story within the sample, and then they can be kind of repeated. But this one doesn't. It's begging to be resolved, and it never was. So yeah, be on the lookout.
By the way, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask: is this a sample or is it? He said he wrote that so he can change it. I don't think it's a sample. I think it's a MIDI part.
Oh, that's awesome, dude. It sounds like an actual recorded piano, so good on you.
Yeah, again, your sounds are really great.
Yeah, good work. Yeah, just try to change it into something. Give us some movement in the melody. So yeah, I would give it like maybe a yellow, maybe an orange. Because I would be, if I was like working with you on this, I would definitely rewrite the MIDI parts to reflect those changes. Production, I think for me, like I said, I kind of like the volume automation. I think most of the stuff that we're talking about is kind of nitpicky. I would give you probably mostly a green for production. For an overall track score, I think it's a yellow develop. What do you think, Josh?
Yeah, I'd give it the same. I think it's like there's a lot of things working really well for it, but it definitely is in the developed category in terms of like getting a subject on there. Probably like even if it's just more interesting melody bits or like instruments that sort of fill in that space that's being left, or a vocalist, I think would probably work best on this.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, you're definitely getting there. This is really cool.
Yeah, bro. Keep sending us shit. And Big Tuna says, "What's up, fellas? Can I submit some music?" Yes, you can. You can always submit some music. Unfortunately, we're about to sign off. Appreciate you, Kaito. Thank you. But if you use our submission form, we'll definitely get to you the next time we stream. So please do it. Always looking for new people.
Yes.
But yeah, cool. You have any last words to say, Joshua?
I don't think so. I mean, again, thanks everybody for sending us your stuff, for putting yourselves out there.
Yeah.
Super cool. I think it's valuable to have this sort of community of people. It's great when we've got people in the comments that are giving their opinions and artist to artist type thing. Me and Chris make music as well, so it's a community of people trying to help each other make the best music possible, and it's just really cool to see that insight into everyone's creative process. So really appreciate you guys sending us stuff and sorry, Chris, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, like, and you could see when we have the people in the chat commenting what they like and they don't like, you could see some of the stuff that's universal and some of the stuff that's really subjective.
Yeah.
Like, so a lot of this stuff you don't have to sacrifice your artistry, right? A lot of this stuff is like bringing you up to a threshold where you sound professional, and like that's usually the stuff that everybody agrees on in the chat. But then sometimes, like some people in the chat are like, "Oh, I really fuck with this song," where I'm like, "I don't really like the content of this song." But like that's a subjective point. So take our stuff with a grain of salt, and then try to latch onto the things where everybody's saying the same thing because it's probably truth. So yeah, cool.
Yep, exactly. All right, well, thanks again, everybody, for showing up, participating, and chatting.
Cool.
We're looking forward to doing more of this with you guys. Keep sending us stuff, and most importantly, follow us on. Yeah, follow us on Instagram up there, FastTrack Music. We've got updates on there on what we're doing and when we're streaming, all that good stuff, links to everything. And we've got a Discord community if anybody wants to join that. Let's make something out of that area. Other than that, I think that's all we've got today. Hope that everybody has a great weekend. Make some more great music. Send us your revisions once you have them. And we'll see you soon.
Happy Friday, everybody. Happy weekend.
Happy Friday.